one paints a painting that'll be looked at for centuries, or builds a church that'll be admired and looked at in astonishment for centuries. No, this is a field where one does one's work and in 10 years it's obsolete. And really, it won't be usable in 10 or 20 years. It's sort of like the sediment of rocks. You're building up a mountain and you get to contribute your little layer of sedimentary rock to make the mountain that much higher. In an interview with Silicon Valley Historical Association in 1994, Steve Jobs widely underestimated his importance to the field of technology. Apple is a technological corporation that aims to lead the field of technology and has triumphed in becoming one of the world's most influential companies. Through their origins, profit generation, organizational culture, and philanthropy, Apple has succeeded in becoming a household name. But Apple has definitely had a rocky past. Steve Jobs was the adopted son of a Mountain View, California machinist, and even from a young age he had an interest in gadgetry and electronics. After accepting a summer internship at Hewlett and Packard, he met his Apple co-founder Steve Wozniak, and together they joined in a venture to make a personal computer. The Apple I was created in 1975 on a budget of $1,350, which was paid for by Steve Jobs selling his Volkswagen microbus and Steve Wozniak selling his Hewlett and Packard calculator. And though the Apple sold mainly to hobbyists, it did create a big enough profit for them to continue their venture. And 2 years later, in 1977, they created the Apple II. The Apple II was a widely successful product for the company, and in its first year, it had a profit of $3 million. By its fifth year, the profit had ballooned to $200 million. But successes for the company wouldn't continue. With failures like Lisa and the Apple III, Apple ended up losing half of its market to IBM. In 1984, Steve Jobs worked to create the next big product and created the Macintosh, but it was simply too expensive for its desired use as a personal computer. In 1985, Steve Jobs was forced to resign by the board of directors. In the separation from Apple, Steve Jobs created his own computing company called Next and joined with Disney to create Pixar and the world's first fully animated film. And though Steve Jobs seemed to have quite a few successes in the separation with Apple, Apple didn't mirror those successes. And after buying out Next and appointing Steve Jobs as advisor to the board of directors, they hoped that their financial situation would improve. In the spring of 1997, Apple boasted a quarterly loss of $708 million, which pressured the current CEO, Gilbert Amelio, to resign. And Steve Jobs took his place back as CEO. With Steve Jobs back at the head of Apple, where he arguably belongs, he worked very hard to create the next big product for the company. And with a $150 million loan from Microsoft, he created the iMac. The iMac was so successful that it created a next year profit of $5.9 billion. $5.9 billion may seem like a lot in 1998, but Apple had absolutely no intention of stopping there. In the first quarter of 2016, Apple reported a gross profit of $75.9 billion and a net profit of $18.4 billion. In the recent recession, Apple is responsible for giving the S&P, which is America's stock market index, 3 of its total 6% in growth. With the app economy alone, Apple is responsible for creating 210,000 jobs, and it's growing. As of December 2015, Apple is responsible for creating and sustaining 1.9 million jobs. According to Apple's website, the iPhone alone is responsible for 1/4 to 1/3 of an entire percentage of the U.S. gross domestic product. So one must wonder what type of a company can create this big of an economical impact for our country. Here I will turn it over to my partner and she will explain their organizational culture.
company as big as Apple must stand for something. When Steve Jobs returned to Apple in 1998 and the company was in dire straits financially, the goal was not to turn the financial situation around, but to stop making good products and start making excellent products. And the final result may be a financial turnaround for the company. And that formed a standard of innovation, excellence, and creativity for Apple. The creativity and innovation of Apple has changed the way that we do things in business and entertainment as well. One Apple product can replace and make obsolete many other products that we have used in the past. With the creation of the iPod and then the iPhone, that they both changed the way we do things. And now with the recent release of the iWatch, we'll have even more products become obsolete. Apple changes lives around the world, not just through their products. I'm going to tell you the story about Connie, who lives in Zambia. And Connie is a woman who had 3 children, and one by one her children got sick and died. And this was very difficult for her. It's very well known that AIDS and HIV is a big problem in Zambia and many African countries. The town started to talk about her, and when her husband got ill, that maybe they have HIV, maybe they're sick. Well, it turned out that she did have HIV, and her 3 children had died due to HIV. When her husband got sick, she finally went and got tested and started taking medication that is provided by Red, which is a company that they help people in Africa to get medication so that they will not transmit the virus and so that they can live healthy lives. Connie then decided that when she started to feel better, that she would help others in Africa to become educated and to help them to get medication as well, because many families can't afford it. So the reason this ties back into Apple is that Apple is the biggest supporter of Red that there is. They donate 10 times more than their biggest supporter. So we can see how Steve Jobs had no idea how thick his layer of sediment was going to be in all areas, not just in the technology. This is just one of many philanthropy projects that Apple is involved in. They're doing, indeed, they're layering a large layer of sediment in the charity department. Apple has a goal to use 100% renewable energy in all of their facilities throughout the world. They're already at 93%. In United States and China, they're already at 100%. They have recycling incentives so that their products don't end up in landfills, and they're truly finding ways in every step of the process of their products, from manufacturing to disposal, to improve their environmental impact. Though the technology field may not be a field where you can create a piece of artwork to marvel at for centuries, it is a field where, given enough creativity and innovation, it is one person can make a centuries-long impact. It is clear that Steve Jobs had no idea just how big a layer of rock he would be laying down.